Hello everyone and welcome back to Glassix Spotlight. In today's episode, we're diving into the transformative world of customer experience, and there is no better person to guide us on this journey than Neal Topf, president and co-founder of Callzilla. Neal is not just a leader in the contact center industry. He's a visionary who has taken Callzilla from a bargaining idea in 2005 to a renowned, award-winning outsourced contact center. His expertise spans customer care, acquisition, and innovative outsourcing solutions, making him a pivotal figure in the industry. Neal's achievements with Callzilla are remarkable. Under his leadership, the company has been recognized with over a dozen industry awards, including the 2021 Bronze Stevie Award for Contact Center of the Year and the 2021 Silver Stevie Award for Customer Service Team of the Year. His insights are sought after across the globe, making him a regular feature in industry discussion, interviews, and conferences. But what truly distinguishes Neal is his forward-thinking approach, particularly his integration of AI in customer care and acquisition. He's not just keeping pace with the industry advancement, he's at the forefront, shaping the future of outsourced contact center with innovative solutions. So buckle up for an enlightening discussion about the AI revolution in customer experience, multi-channel support, and the future of contact centers. Neal, it's a great honor to have you on the Glassix Spotlight show. Welcome.
Ron, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you and to Glassix for inviting me to spend some time together with you. I'm a big fan of the things that you are doing as a company. And of course, I'm a big proponent of technology companies coming out of the great country of Israel, startup nation, unicorn nation, and as we say here in the U.S. and of course in Israel, I'm Israel Chai. So it's a privilege for me to spend some time with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate that, Neal. So Neal, before we kick off today's episode, I'd love for you to share a bit about your personal journey with Callzilla. Could you enlighten us on the key milestones and innovation that have defined your tenure there, and perhaps shed some light on the insights and experiences that have led to your recent industry accolades and recognitions?
Thank you. Yes. The word innovation in what we do, I'm not sure if it's a fair description for us. When people say innovation, typically they're thinking of technological breakthroughs and things like hopefully one day curing cancer and curing diseases. I don't look at what we do as that. How I look at is we are hopefully improving customer experiences little by little, taking advantage of existing technology provided by companies like yourselves and other innovators. Your company is actually the innovator. We're the ones figuring out what to do with the technology to hopefully cure the ills of not cancer, but of bad customer experiences. And if we can do that, we make customers more loyal, more willing to transact at greater amounts, and increasing customer lifetime value. So I look at it kind of as a puzzle. There's lots of different pieces that are placed in front of us. There's the pieces of technology. There are the pieces of human capital, resources. And how do we take those things with special sauce, which we call process, and align each of those pieces together and hopefully make a solution which solves the puzzle. It's been 18 years now. We're solving some puzzles. We have more puzzles to complete, but we've been hopefully successful, I think, in putting a lot of the pieces together. But by the way, what's so enjoyable about what I do, I think, is that every second it changes. The dynamic changes, the landscape changes. There's more technology. There's new and different processes. The people can change, and managing all those things together, I think, is what, like I said, it's really enjoyable for me. It's a challenge, and it keeps me trying to stay ahead of the game. And like I said, the objective of solving the conundrum of how do you create better customer experiences, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, I'm sure. By the way, one of the critical pieces to this is not only the technology. It's not only the customer, but it's also the employee. The role of the employee, and how you hire the right people, train the right people, motivate them, involve them. Then you can really have a lot of fun once you have the right people on your staff to create process and actually create the art around the science. But I know we'll get into that a little bit later. That's how I think I would kind of summarize the response to the question.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love your last point about the agent and how the agent role and mindset and approach to this type of work is evolving, especially nowadays with the integration of AI. For our listeners, today's episode is called Contact Centers Transformed, Neal Topf on the AI Revolution in Customer Experience. And Neal, we're going to dive right in. So given your extensive experience with Callzilla, how do you perceive the integration of AI technologies in contact centers, particularly in the realm of customer care and acquisition?
Yeah, it's an important question. AI is available. It's at our fingertips. It's not necessarily expensive to acquire. It's quite easy to deploy. The real question is, what do you do with it? And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. We know the things like chatbots. That's kind of like the first thing that people think about, I believe, when people talk about AI. It's a chatbot, maybe. Well, a chatbot is fairly easy to put in place. But how do you design the experience? What happens when a customer doesn't want to interact with a chatbot? What happens when the chatbot stumbles and is not prepared to provide a good response? What do you do with that? What happens when a customer wants to pivot away from chat and wants to talk to somebody? Lots of different things pop up, and this is where the rubber meets the road, as we say, is how do you create process and an overall design experience to solve those problems and those realities? Those are realities. Those aren't things made up by me. These actually happen every day in our customer interactions. So what do you do with that? The other critical thing when we talk about AI, I think in customer care and customer experience, is not only what the customer is experiencing, but I think more importantly, what is happening behind the scenes in the interaction with, if there's a live agent or the brand. What is happening behind the scenes to push forth a response, to make the interaction fast, resolution based? There's lots of tools at our disposal now. Some of them involve ChatGPT. Some of them use speech and text analytics. Some of these things are now talking about voice bots. So, we begin to integrate these concepts of large language models, and how do you do those to solve problems, not just for customers, but also for employees and the frontline team that's interacting with customers, and all those things, all those kind of dilemmas that we're faced with. That's where you have to combine science with art. It's not just science. The science is critical. The science is there, but the art, and where each of us can differentiate ourselves and really help out and solve these puzzles that I alluded to. I think there's a lot of art related to that. So that's the process around what do we do with the science, the technology? What do we do to integrate it? How do we design experiences? What do we want the customer to do and say and feel during and after other interactions with the science? Make sense?
Absolutely. And this is like music to my ear, and I'm sure that's a lot to a lot of our listeners' ears as well. I want to touch on the point where you said, when you talked about chatbots, or as now it's very trendy to say generative AI chatbots. And this is something that we started to roll out last year. So we launched our conversational AI suite on May last year. So it's been around for a while now. And one of the things that we wanted to tackle, which are, these are like very industry agnostic when you talk about chatbots, right? Is that this fact that people don't like to interact with chatbots. People don't like chatbots. They think chatbots suck. And that's according to a survey we conducted 2 years before. So one of the things that we've did is we coupled GPT-4 engine of OpenAI with our conversational AI suite. So that basically creates a chatbot that is a generative AI chatbot. And what does that mean? What it means is that you, as a brand, if you adopt that, if you are able to maintain it, if you're able to nurture and kind of understand that it's not enough by integrating OpenAI or GPT-4 into our product and all of a sudden you have a generative AI chatbot, if you understand that it requires maintenance and it requires time and investment, then what you do, you provide that amazing experience when someone asks a question. Let's say they have an open typing space field on your chatbot, on your website or on your app, or even through WhatsApp or Apple Business Messages or whatever channel your business is using. The chatbot is able to provide not just constant responses, but also responses that are very much human-like. But when I say human-like, yes, it depends on how much time you invest in order to train the model, right? But what we're seeing is that we've managed to eliminate by deploying this chatbot in multiple of our customers is that there is no more, sorry, I don't understand that, or there is no more a loophole when the conversation ends and starts all over again. And there is no more this bad experience. When you ask a question, you get a response. So you can ask questions. I recently came up with this blog post when we analyzed 14 weirdest, strangest, and funniest responses from our generative AI chatbots across our client base. And people, they're asking questions like, I want to order pizza to Mars, or I want to do this, and the things that are not related to the brand or to the conversation, but they still get responses. And I think that this adds on the element of your brand being on the forefront of technology, as well as your brand is putting the agent top of mind, because you don't just want to hand over the conversation to an agent if you see the conversation is irrelevant, or you see that the conversation is redundant enough to be resolved with an AI.
Yeah. I think there's one thing interesting that you said, which I might modify just a little bit, which is, I don't think it's necessarily that people don't want or don't like to interact with a chatbot. I think it's different. I think they don't like and don't want to interact with something that's not going to resolve their problems. And because of many consumers' initial interactions with chatbots, they've automatically assumed that the chatbot is going to be a bad experience. It's not going to be able to resolve the problem. It's going to take time, and it's going to lead to frustration or high effort. So our job, collectively, yours, mine, etc., is to find the way to change that narrative and actually provide good experiences with the chatbot. Create resolution, speed of answer you have with the chatbot and the intelligence, but to create a good experience that is fast and resolution based. And I think if you can combine that speed of answer and resolution, then you can far easily achieve satisfaction.
Absolutely. I think you're completely on point here. It depends on the chatbot and the type of the chatbot and the type of the company, and how the company kind of approach the overall customer experience. I understand and I agree with that. So Neal, in your view, how are AI and generative AI shaping customer expectations and the standards for customer experience in both English and Spanish speaking markets?
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. Customer expectations are increasingly demanding overall. And that's, I think, across demographics, whether younger, older, degrees of adoption and technological savviness or sophistication. I think that the marketplace, as it gets younger and younger, will generally want and still have preference for non-human interaction. However, human interaction was never going to go away. I am of the belief that human interaction will continue to be important. I'm of the belief that the phone will continue to be important. The so-called experts have been predicting for years that the voice channel will disappear. It's not disappearing. It's still occupies importance. We now have these things called voice bots, which are great. They're replacing the traditional IVR. You'll have conversational AI where the voice bot can interact with consumers, and that technology is only going to improve. So I think the voice channel will continue to be important. There will be intelligence integrated into the voice channel. I think messaging continues to obviously be important, whether it is traditional SMS, text messaging, whether it's web chat, whether it's live chat, whether it is a chat bot. And I think an important one, I know you guys are heavily involved with this, is WhatsApp. Outside of the US, more specifically, WhatsApp is an incredibly important channel, and you have amazing abilities to integrate bots and intelligence into WhatsApp. And I think that channel will continue to emerge. One thing we have not talked yet enough about, however, is these are all technologies and concepts that are customer facing, but the agent facing use of AI is critically important. The ability to reduce friction as agents may look for a response. That's where the large language models are particularly important to be able to leverage. The ability for agents to summarize, to document interactions, those things are critically important. The ability to update a note in a CRM or to create a ticket, those things are incredibly important and relevant for frontline agents. And then I think those of us that manage frontline agents in these interactions were able to know in a much greater, a much faster period of time what happened in the interaction, what was said, what was not said, what was the sentiment, what was the result, what were the things that were mentioned that are of critical importance, what learnings and insights can we gain from those. The old days, you would only be able to maybe listen to 1 or 2 or 3% of calls or evaluate chats in what was called the quality assurance model. Well, that model has significantly evolved, thankfully, and we can know in a much shorter period of time across a much wider sample. You can now know 100% of the interactions, these things I just mentioned, what was said, what wasn't said, what was the sentiment, what was the result, and the insights. The technology is there for those of us that manage these interactions, and that's a huge, I believe, value add to be able to use this technology for that.
Absolutely. I think that there were two things that really stood out for me. The one that you were talking about, how WhatsApp and chatbots in WhatsApp or AI implementation within WhatsApp is constantly on the rise. So I have to say that, yes, we're doing that, and you're completely on point here when saying it's not really vastly used in the US, but for example, for a US client base, we do it a lot, pretty much imitating the processes while using Apple business messages. So imagine yourself having the same chatbot, same AI capabilities on the channel that people are actually more are using in the US. So that's a very interesting thing that we do, and it's a very interesting use case. I wouldn't say it's unique, but yes, we're one of these companies that are, Apple certified and iOS certified and are able to perform such activities and initiatives to our customers. The other thing that I found interesting is that, we just started the year here, and every single year we're conducting a survey and we're conducting data analysis among our customer base. And what we found is that obviously it's kind of a vast, or should I say popular, increasingly popular use case in contact centers, that more and more phone agents, or let's say more and more phone calls, are being deflected towards digital communication. And we see this number on the rise constantly for the past 4 years now. And I know you probably want to touch on that.
Yeah. Deflection. Oh, the great word deflection. By the way, you mentioned something. I'm going to divert the conversation for 1 second. You had said something interesting earlier about customers not wanting to interact with chatbots and the AI, and there's something to be said for that. I think that we, meaning companies like ours, are largely responsible for that because we've provided not always the greatest experiences, and we haven't plugged gaps. But there's something to be said when the intelligence costs pennies on the dollar, as we say here, when it is so inexpensive and quote unquote easy to deploy a chatbot versus the very expensive human agent. That we're not left with any choice really even if you have the resources, the financial resources to be able to pay for a live agent team, that doesn't mean that you can or you should. The live agents are significantly expensive. They're quirky. They're subjective. They're hard to train. They get cranky. They call out sick. They quit. And so we don't always have a great option in the alternative of having the live agent. That's why this technology is so important. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that and got that in there as a kind of side note before we moved on. I'm sorry, I wanted to get that out. Remind me the question about deflection. I got lost and sidetracked, and I wanted to mention.
So, well, I totally agree with your last point. We see it happens here as well, and we see it happens to our customers. And there is a constant decrease, not just in hiring, but also kind of preserving or maintaining live agents. Absolutely. What I was saying is about call deflection, that it never ceased to amaze me that every single year we look at the numbers and we do the data analysis among our client base, and we see that more phone calls are being deflected towards digital channels. And regardless of the channel, I can come up with other insights that we found on the latest data analysis. For example, saying, well, I don't want to say it like this, but, for support, email is dead. Well, it's not really dead, but it's less in use, okay? It seems like that customers just want immediate responses. They want to approach your business or your contact center, for that matter, through direct messages. They want to use WhatsApp. They want to use Apple Messages. They want to use Messenger or whatever it is, right? So back to my point about call deflections, I said it never ceased to amaze me that every year this number is just growing and growing and growing. And I'm just wondering till what point we will reach eventually that we say, okay, well, this is the end of live agent, or this is the end of phone, or this is the end of what?
Okay. I agree with you. It's a great question. Ironically, again, we talk about the so-called experts. I think the so-called experts have been saying for years that email is going to be dead. Nobody's going to use email anymore. I wish that were true. But what's fascinating is that we have clients whose email volume remains steady or even grows. Now, I think that companies have not made a deliberate decision to try to change that. And if they did, you're right. The tendencies would change and patterns would change more towards messaging. And I think they should. What boggles my mind is some companies still maintain these really ridiculous service levels with email. Like, we'll respond to 80% of emails in 48 or 72 hours. What? How can you get away with responding to customers 72 hours or more later? By the way, I'm a customer of an important airline, and I have a problem that hasn't been resolved in, we're going on 10 months now. I'm still waiting. They don't answer email. They don't answer social media. Anyway, the point is that the expectations for consumers continue to get higher and fast. We want faster responses, but we have to know what to do with them. Email, I don't think, is a great example of fast resolution. These things could and should be deflected more towards, like you said, messaging, WhatsApp, or even a social media direct message in Twitter or X or Instagram or one of those things. But companies have to adopt policy and process around them. That's, I think, where the art comes into play. Just because you have the ability with the technology doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to do it or be able to do it. That's where you need to have a process.
Absolutely. I also think it depends on the vertical you serve and the breed of customers and their ages. I think there are a lot of different parameters to look at, before a company, I think that eventually it will be inevitable, right? We might just not be there at the moment as we speak. But yeah, definitely, I agree with what you said. So Neal, considering the rapid advancement in AI, how do you think business process outsourcing, we also know it as BPO, services are evolving? I mean, what are the key trends you've observed in this sector?
Yeah, for companies like ours, we are a live agent first contact center. business process outsourcer. We necessarily have had to begin to change our mindset and our capabilities to be able to offer tools and technologies around that have automation and artificial intelligence. We have some clients that only utilize our services for automation. We have others that want to use our live agents with their tools for automation, or they want us to be able to propose a hybrid environment of our live agents and our intelligence and automation. So we have to learn to be lots of different things to lots of different profiles and personas. And that comes with challenges, but we've had to adapt and evolve. And again, going back to having to always be a couple steps ahead of hopefully the marketplace and figuring out what your clients want. We've I think have done a pretty reasonable job with those things. But it's created opportunities. How do we partner, for example, with companies like yours to offer these hybrid solutions? How do we integrate with the different automation tools? How do we create and design environments between live agent and automation so that there still is low effort for the customer, but we can still get resolution for them as well. So there's a lot of different design things that are important for us. We can no longer just be a live agent shop. We have to have lots of tools at our disposal. And by the way, I think more and more companies will look to partners like ours that can bring tools to the table and allow kind of like a menu. Do you want this? Do you want that? One from column A, one from column B. Do you want the appetizer? Do you want the main course? Do you want two appetizers? Do you want just the dessert? Do you want the appetizer, main course, dessert, and coffee? We have to offer lots of different things to clients because every client, as you know, is unique. They have unique different products and services and ways they approach their clients. And we don't have the luxury of just saying, no, we can't do that, or no, we won't do that. We have to be able to have those tools at our disposal.
Absolutely. So Neal, how do you envision AI further enhancing multi-channel support in contact centers? And what challenges and opportunities does this present?
Yeah, I think that, challenges, I think, are the easiest part to think about. What technology is right for what service type or what problem? How do you plug and play a tool and a piece of technology? But then more importantly, as I've alluded to before, how to create process around that. It's not just, the stuff is usually not just plug and play. You have to create process and create what if scenarios. What if the customer wants this? What if the customer wants that? And then you have to create the integrations. Most technologies now are very open and can connect with your APIs, but you have to be able to connect them. And by the way, when you start connecting different tools into a single unique ecosystem, then you have to be able to report around it. And what we found is oftentimes some of the canned out of the box or off the shelf reporting systems are not adequate. And so we have our own solutions around reporting and providing analytics and insights. And that's one thing we've learned is really appreciated and needed by our clients. Just because we have the technology doesn't necessarily give us the insights and knowledge without the reporting. We've got to have the reporting pieces in place. So kind of tying all of those pieces together, we've been able to add a lot of value to the not only the customer journey, but the employee journey, the live agent journey, and tell really our clients what the heck is going on, both what is being said directly, but also just as importantly, what is not being said, what is not being done, what is requested, how are we not satisfying our customers. And so I think that's the trick, is staying ahead of things to provide a fully transparent, fully hopefully as effortless as possible experience for the employee and the customer with insights. The insights is the important part.
Yeah, I think you touched a very important point on what we used to call in the industry AI predictive support. But it works both ways, because when I say AI predictive support, I usually refer to the type of support we provide to our customers in order to provide them with better customer experiences and outcomes before any issues arises, right? So that is the type of AI predictive support that we usually talk about in the industry. But I think that your point about how do we also do that from the agent side of things, or from the contact center, the admin or the manager side of things, I think it's super important. And I think it's often get neglected in different discussions.
Yeah, agreed. These are the things that keep us up at night, trying to stay ahead of the curve. And the predictive piece is quite interesting. How do you try to anticipate what the customer wants and needs? And you have some numbers and data at your disposal to pick off the low-hanging fruit, or cherry pick the top 5 reasons that a customer may be contacting the brand. But then beyond that, what do you do with the non-top 5, the smaller percentages? That's where it gets a little bit tricky, and you have to have the art. Sure, you can program the chatbot to respond to those top 5, but when it's outside of the top 5, you still the expectations are still high, and that's where you got to be able to be really nimble and reduce with the same hopeful ease. Reduce the friction and provide resolution.
Solid point there. I agree. So Neal, could you share a few examples or case studies from Callzilla where AI integration has significantly improved outcomes or solved complex challenges?
The ones that I love to talk about, I love to talk about all of them, but I think the ones that I enjoy the most and I spend the most time explaining to our clients and prospects are the speech and text analytics. So the behind the scenes, the non-customer facing AI and tools. As I alluded to before, you used to have, some people in the back room that would be listening to and scoring calls in a quality assurance model. Well, those days are over. By the way, it's really hard to hire and retain quality assurance agents. Those jobs are tedious. It takes a very unique profile to be able to find the right person to do that work and retain them. They turn over just as fast, if not faster, than customer service agents. Their work is tough. It's tedious. And asking them to work through and try to, achieve whatever it is, 1 or 2 or 3% of calls that are evaluated, it's a highly inefficient and costly exercise. With this technology, we can evaluate and provide data and insights across now 100% of calls, 100% of texts, 100% of chats and emails and WhatsApp messages, and provide the analytics of, like I said before, not just was the agent friendly? Did the agent read this verbatim message that they're supposed to read? But things that are a lot more complex around effort, around resolution, around satisfaction, around sentiment. And you start to have data at your fingertips to be able to make better decisions and have greater understanding of what really is taking place in those interactions. And what we've seen is when our clients can understand this, they all are dying to get the technology and implement these types of things. It replaces the old school, inefficient, clunky way of doing quality assurance, and we've replaced it with what we now refer to as quality management. That's my favorite.
I love it. Yes. Quality management. Yes. It sounds better. It's lighter and it's more updated for sure. Neal, before we wrap up today's discussion, I have to pick your brain on this one. So if we look towards the future, what are your predictions for the role of AI in contact centers, let's say over the next 5 years? And how should companies prepare for these changes?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to tell you anything that you haven't already heard or read about. Meaning, lots of people say, beware of the shiny object concept. People get attracted to shiny objects, the newest, the latest, the greatest, and they rush to go out and buy something, and then they don't know what the heck to do with it, or they don't have the team to integrate it, or the technology may not really be developed enough to be able to make changes with it. Be wary of that would be my recommendation. Approach things slowly. Do little tests. Approach. Don't be afraid to test. Don't be afraid to test multiple vendors of things. Don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. The vendor market is critically important here for buyers. know your vendors, know the technology, know the differences between the technologies. Technology is there to acquire. You got to be able to know what to do with it. The technology will only get better. So I think it's a slow roll. It's not a press here and all of your problems will go away once you've started to implement ChatGPT. I haven't heard of anybody that has had massive success initially with ChatGPT because we're just learning what the heck to do with it. And the technology is really just starting to develop and we got to be careful with it. I don't believe that humans are going to be fully replaced. I think that work will evolve, that the tedious, frequent tasks will be handled by the AI technology, and those humans that are left will be tasked with more complex work that they can add value in. If, for example, one of the most common things that people in the customer care world have to handle is where's my order? When is my delivery going to get here? Type question. You don't need to have live agents answer that stuff anymore. The technology is there to get those types of responses pretty quickly. So agents will not be tasked with answering those kinds of questions. They're going to be tasked with handling the more complex stuff that the AI cannot resolve. So I think that's where things are going to go. And like I said, I don't think that of answering anything that you haven't already heard. The recommendations go slow, test, know your vendor market well, pay attention to the vendors. They're the experts. By the way, just because you're a live agent BPO like ours, we have all these tools at our disposal, and the technology vendors and the BPO vendors can be of significant value as a technology partner. Brands don't need to necessarily have capabilities in-house. Rely on a partner because there are more and more and more partners like ours that are out there, and you guys as well. Talk to the experts, rely on them. Don't look down on them just because they're vendors, like I know some people do. Consult with them. They have value to offer.
Love that. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more, obviously. Neal, I really want to thank you for joining us today. It was a great discussion. I'm sure our listeners are going to love it even more than I am. Thank you very much for coming. And the pleasure is all ours.
Bro, I appreciate it. I wish Glassix continued success. I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me to share some of my ideas and stories and things like that. And if any of your listeners wish to contact me, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. Typically the best way to find me is on LinkedIn, and I hope to be able to interact with your listeners. I appreciate the opportunity, and like I said, much continued success for you guys, and it will be interesting if we can reconnect and do another episode in a couple of years and see if the things we said today actually held true. I hope and think that they will. And, when I talked about talking with the vendor market or partner market, you guys are doing an incredible job offering solutions to the marketplace, and your work is critically important. And I appreciate the partnership and opportunity to share the microphone together with you.
Likewise, Neal, and I'll take you on that offer.
Sounds good. Look forward to it in 2 years.
Yes, totally. Thank you.